Now, as I mentioned, Logcat is the Android logging system. Right? It serves basically as a message repository. Records all kinds of information about what's going on with your system, allows applications to write messages out there, but it does it in a very structured and useful way. Now, in terms of writing information out there, there's a class called the log class that has a series of static methods on there. So if I want to write an error message out, or if I want to write an information message out, there are a series of methods that let me do that. We'll talk more about those methods later. The key thing is that it's easy to get information in there, and then it's really easy to read the information inside of there, and not just read it, but filter it. Now, you can read the information either using Eclipse, which is what we'll do most of the time, or you can actually use the ADB utility with the Logcat command and read the information that's out there as well. So it's a really powerful mechanism. Now, Logcat is not just a text file. It's actually a consistent structured storage model, and it has a consistent set of information for everything that's put into the Logcat system. Now, one of the really important aspects is the level, and that indicates a level of importance or severity. We'll talk more about that in just a second. And it, of course, has the standard things you would expect to find in a logging system, that there's a timestamp for a message. There's, of course, the process and thread ID that generated the message. Right? There's the name of the application that generated the message. That's all the standard stuff. But there's also two other things. One is the tag. Now, in reality, the tag is any free-form text. You can put anything there you want. But the intention of it is to identify either the system or the component or some method that generated the message. You want to really kind of zero in on where it's coming from. And you'll find as we learn more about Android, that doing those tags well is really important for figuring out what's going on with your system, because as you understand Android more and more, you understand things like processes and even applications don't mean as much in Android as they do in other environments. You can actually have very rich systems that cross different processes and different applications. So defining your tags well will go a long way to helping you build a system that's easy to follow and easy to work out issues that may occur in. And of course, the last thing is the text, and that's just the message itself. Now, as I mentioned, the levels are really important. They're important both in terms of writing the information out as well as viewing the information. And again, they indicate the relative importance of the message. Right? So the lowest priority or importance is what's considered a verbose message, where you would write that out with the log.v function. You'd call that, and that would write out what's considered a verbose message. And that would be something you would only show in kind of the most detailed informational scenarios. Right? You can have debug messages, or you can have informational messages, and those things are all just trying to help you see what's going on in your app. And then, of course, you get into more of the error levels, right? The warning messages with log.w, error with log.e. And there's what's called an assert level. Sometimes the documentation will call this the failure level. And that's something that's only in the most severe cases, and it's written out with the log.wtf command. You also notice there's a level called silent, where you can't actually write anything at the silent level, so it's really just a filtering level, right? And as we look at this, these levels are managed hierarchically. And so what that means is that whenever you set your viewing at a particular level, you see all the messages at that level and above. Right? So if I say my viewing level is verbose, that means because it's hierarchical, I'll see verbose and everything above it. So when I set my viewing level to verbose, I truly see everything. Now I, of course, could change that and say, well, I want to take my viewing level and set it to warning. Well, in that point, I would just see everything that's warning, error, assert, or so everything warning or above. And so you can see that if I set my level to silent, since there's no way to write messages at the silent level, I wouldn't see anything. Now to note a couple things here, right, is that what a terrible failure, right? When you look at that WTF command, you may have your own ideas of what that means. Documentation says it stands for what a terrible failure. We use that only for those scenarios where something is going horribly wrong, right? Almost kind of like a crash sort of scenario. Right? And again, as I mentioned, no message can be written at the silent level, so silent really is just a filtering value to say, don't show me anything.